Hello everyone, welcome back to the second week of the second term. We have started algebra this new term and you have been taught how to add and subtract in algebra last week, right? You must be wondering why ma'am is showing the same page again and again every day. It's because that this page is actually very important, right? Because here I have written all the rules, right, of the 4 basic operation, the order in which you have to solve this expression if you get all the operations in one line, and you also have to remember the sign rules when you are adding or subtracting, multiplying or dividing, right? And of course you also have to remember this 2-3 lines which some children are not following, that you have to have a sign with every number. You have to solve 2 numbers at a time to avoid any calculation error, and of course you have to underline as well. Okay, so this is why I'm showing you the first page again and again. So you remember I told you that we can only add and subtract like terms, right? We cannot add and subtract unlike terms, correct? And you have been doing your homework pretty well, yes. So I'm writing down this expression in which a lot of terms are involved. And then now we see how we are going to add them up, right? It's just a little recap. First thing what you have to do is to write down the expression, right? Then you try to spot the like terms, and then after you find the like terms, you are going to try to rearrange it. So when you start from the first one and then try to search for it, try to search for the other like term like this, right? And then you're going to underline it. There are no more a squares, so now you're going to rearrange them. This is the first thing you have to do. You have to rearrange them. All right, bring them together. Now start with the second one. The second term is minus 3b. So I'm going to find out if there's any other b's in this expression. So this is already done. This is the other b that I just found, and there is no other b. So this is how you have to try to search for it, and be careful not to miss out any term. Now I'm going to write it down. Minus 3b, I'm going to rearrange the b's. All right, I've done that. Now I go on to the next term. Now my first term is done, second term, third term, fourth term. I start with this. Minus a cube. Is there any other a cube in this expression? No, so this is alone, so I'm just going to underline and write it down. The reason to underline is to not skip any term. All right, we have to just be careful while we are working. And this is, suppose I use my same pen. Now there are no other C's, so I'm going to just write it down. I copy it down. Now it's my time to solve it. Now 5a minus 5a square minus 11a square, I'm going to start solving it, right? I put an equals to sign here, which I almost forget. Okay, now I'm going to solve it. 5 minus 11. Now, of course, small number cannot minus big number. You do it in your head. It is 6, right? And then plus, minus, subtract, sign of the greater number. And the greater number is 11, so I put the sign of the greater number. And the a square follows the number. You do not do anything to the a square. You just follow it. Right? It just follows the number. This is just to tell you that these are like terms and you are allowed to add and subtract them. That's all. Okay? Now comes B. I'm going to underline the B's. I'm solving 2 terms at a time. Now minus, plus, subtract, sign of the greater number. I do that again and I subtract 3 minus 1. B means 1b, right? So I'm going to write it down as 2b. And remember, if you skip the b, if you just write down minus 2 and then go on, your answer will be wrong. Remember, your answer will be wrong if you miss out any letters with the number, if there are letters with the number. All right, so you have to be careful. You have to follow down the letter with the number, with the answer. Now, minus a cube, it's alone. So I just copy it down, minus a cube, plus c is also alone, c. I copy down. Now look at this answer. None of the terms are alike. It's a squared, this is b, a cube, c, right? None of the terms are alike. So that means this whole thing is my answer. All right, I cannot solve it any more. Can't go further with it. All right, so this is what we have done. So again, I repeat, add and subtract. When you're adding and subtracting, the letters just follows the answer, right? Because now we are going to go on to multiplication and division, in which we are going to solve the expressions in a different way, in which the rules are also different. All right, in addition and subtraction, the letters just follows the number. You do nothing with the letters. You don't touch the letters. They just follow the number. They just follow the answer. All right, they are there just to tell you in a way that, okay, you are allowed to add and subtract the terms. These are like terms, so you can go on and add and subtract them. Right? Like terms, go on, add and subtract them. Unlike terms, stop. You can't do anything. This is why they are there. Just imagine that. Okay? For multiplication and division, the rules are different. All right, so I'm going to go on to multiplication and division now. Okay, so now we are going to multiply and divide in algebra. All right? It's slightly different than addition and subtraction. So you have to remember that difference very well. Okay, otherwise you can go wrong. So the rules of addition and subtraction is slightly different than multiplication and division. For example, like earlier I told you in the first video, that if we have an A plus an A plus another A, right? This means 1A plus 1A plus 1A, right? Which means it is 3. How many A's? There are 3 A's, right? This is what we have been doing up till now. We are adding up the numbers and the A just follows. That's all. This A is just to tell you that these are like terms, right? But if we have something like A multiply by A multiply by A. Now this is not 3A. All right, this is not 3A, because in multiplication, A has the power of 1. If there's no power, means there's a power of 1, right? And we are going to add up all the powers. How many A's are there? All right, over here, it's A cubed. A cubed. A cubed means A multiplied by A multiplied by A. A is being multiplied 3 times. Just like when you take out the squares and cubes, right? 2 cubed means what? 2 cubed means not 2 times 3, right? It's 2 times 2 times 2, right? This is what it means. 2 cubed means 2 is being multiplied 3 times. Right? So if I write down something like 4 times 4 times 4, it means 4 is cubed. Right? So it's 4 cubed is 64. 4 times 4 times 4 means 4 is being multiplied 3 times. The same number is being multiplied 3 times, so you can write it as an exponent here. You can represent it as an exponent. Right? So this is a power of 1. If there's no power, means the power is 1. And in multiplication, you write down the base. These are called bases, and these are the exponents, right? A is the base, and the base has a power of 1. Base has a power of 1. Same base has a power of 1. So you are going to add up the powers. In multiplication, you are going to just write down the letter once and just add up the powers. For example, if I say a squared times a. So we are going to multiply the numbers and we are going to multiply the powers. Here also we have multiplied the numbers. What is the number? 1 times 1 times 1. So 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. Right? And then you multiply the letters as well. Whereas in addition and subtraction that we just did, we just plus and minus the numbers and the letters follow as it is. Right? The letters follow. We do nothing to the letters here. But over here in multiplication, it's slightly different, as I told you earlier. The numbers will also multiply with the alphabets. The alphabets will multiply with each other and the numbers are going to multiply with each other. All right? And how do the alphabets multiply? The powers of those alphabets are added up. Okay? Now this is 1 times 1. So the answer is 1. If you write it as in numbers. Then what about the A? Now A here. So it's being multiplied. So you write down the letter once and add up the powers. This means A to the power 1. So 2 plus 1 is 3. This is 1A cubed. A is 3 times. Over here it's 2 times. Then multiplied by 1 more. So it's A cubed. Alright, so A is being multiplied 3 times. And one more thing I would like to say, that we usually avoid writing multiply sign in between the letters, because then it becomes AXA, right? Because all these letters are also going to be involved in algebra multiplication. So we usually avoid writing the multiply sign in between the letters. Okay? We can write it down as, for example, 2 times A, right? Times A. But writing this as A times A can be read as AXA. So we represent the multiply as a dot. Usually we try to represent the multiply as a dot in between the letters only, in between the letters. So instead of writing down multiply, you are going to put an A dot A. Okay? Do not try to write down 2 times 3 as 2.3, okay? Because then it becomes a decimal. Okay? So we are not going to write down the dot. We're not going to represent the multiplication sign as a dot between the numbers. Only we do it between the letters, because this can be then mistaken as an X. So I'll show you another sum like this.